They said the first time you take a life, something inside you dies too. But they were wrong. When I plunged my blade into the throat of the creature that wore the face of a child, all I felt was clarity. Cold, clean, righteous. The Sentinels of Light had trained me for this moment since I was old enough to hold a weapon, and I executed my duty with precision. I was Arya Vane, model recruit, sacred blade, loyal fist of the divine. My loyalty was forged in fire and silence, and I never asked questions. Until now. The rain was falling when I arrived in Halewick, a border town that smelled of damp wood and hidden rot. The people watched newcomers with the wary eyes of those who had seen too much and spoken too little. Disappearances had plagued the town for months, 6 villagers gone without a trace. Whispers spoke of something inhuman. The Order suspected a sleeper, a creature lying low, blending in, gathering strength. I was sent to find it and eliminate it. Alone. My cloak was soaked through as I passed a crooked sign reading, Halewick Public Library. The building stood stubborn against the gray sky, its old stones dark with age, the windows glowing faintly like the eyes of a beast pretending to sleep. I don't know why I went inside. Maybe to dry off. Maybe because I had a name, Lyra, and a trail that led here. The bell above the door gave a soft chime as I stepped into the warmth. And then I saw her. She stood behind the counter with a book in her hands, unaware of me at first. Her hair was a deep, dark cascade that fell like ink over her shoulders, and her skin glowed with a strange luminescence under the amber light. But it was her eyes that stopped me. Violet. Ancient. As if they had seen stars burn out and empires fall. Our gazes locked. I felt my heart stutter. Then she smiled. "You look like someone running from the rain or towards something far worse," she said, voice smooth as velvet, tinged with something I couldn't place. "Which is it?" "Just passing through." I lied. "Aren't we all?" she replied, returning her gaze to the page she held. Her calm unsettled me. I was trained to read people, to find cracks in masks, but hers felt too perfect, too controlled. For hours I lingered in that place, pretending to browse while studying her from every angle. She spoke to others with practiced warmth, offered recommendations, shared stories of folklore and legends that danced too close to truths I recognized. She was clever, elusive, and yet nothing in her presence screamed danger. Not to my eyes, not to my blade. That night, I dreamed of her voice murmuring ancient words I didn't understand. And when I woke, I was sweating beneath the layers of blankets in the inn, pulse racing like I'd been hunted. Over the next few days, I returned to the library again and again, finding excuses, books on local myths, town history, poetry. She seemed amused by my presence, as if she knew I was lying about everything and chose to let me continue the charade. Her laugh was low and rare, but when it came, it curled in my stomach like fire. We began to talk, not just about books but ideas. Right and wrong. Mercy and monsters. Her words carried weight, like someone who had lived long enough to question every truth. "Do you ever wonder if the stories we're told are meant to blind us?" she asked once, leaning against a table as dusk spilled gold across the room. That maybe the monsters were the faces of men more often than not? I had no answer. I'd never been allowed to ask that question. And yet, she kept pulling those forbidden thoughts to the surface. With every word, every glance, she chipped away at the walls the Order had built around my mind. Still, my purpose remained. I was here to find and kill a creature. Nothing more. Nothing less. Then I found the mark. Hidden beneath the frame of a painting in the library's back room, a sigil of the old kind, etched in ash and blood. The kind that revealed true nature. I brushed my fingers over it. Warm. Fresh. Lyra had lied. She wasn't just a woman with strange eyes and strange wisdom. She was one of them. I should have left. The moment my fingers brushed that sigil and heat pulsed up my arm like a warning, I should have turned, drawn my blade, and fulfilled my sacred oath. But instead, I stood there in the library's quiet back room, the silence pressing against my ears like the seconds before a scream, and I did nothing. The mark was ancient, unmistakable, etched in the language of the old kind, the ones who had lived before humans learned to walk upright. It pulsed with a magic I'd only read about in our most restricted texts. And Lyra had hidden it here, in her sanctuary of books and soft smiles. I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake, staring at the cracked ceiling of my rented room, haunted not by the knowledge that she was the one I'd been sent to destroy, but by the way she looked at me. The softness of it. The patience. The warmth. Monsters weren't supposed to look at you like that. They weren't supposed to make you feel anything but righteous fury. The next morning, I returned to the library with steel in my spine and doubt rotting my resolve. She was waiting, as if she knew I'd come. "You found it," Lyra said before I could speak, her voice low, calm, devastating. "You left the back room door ajar. Careless, for someone so precise." I didn't deny it. I didn't pretend. "What is it?" I asked. "The mark." She closed the book in her hands with a soft thud and met my gaze. "Proof. Of what I am." My fingers twitched toward the hilt beneath my cloak. "Then why leave it where I'd find it?" "Because you needed to see it," she said. "Because you've already started asking the questions your order never wanted you to ask." My mouth went dry. "You're not afraid?" "Of you," she smiled, slow and sad. "I should be. But I've seen the eyes of true killers, Arya. Yours aren't there yet." My heart kicked against my ribs. Don't mistake hesitation for mercy. I wouldn't dream of it. That should have been the end. I should have drawn steel and finished it. But instead, she offered me tea. And I accepted. We sat in the reading room, surrounded by dust and quiet, the storm outside swelling like the war inside my chest. She poured without fear, her hands steady, her presence maddeningly serene. "How long have you lived here?" I asked. "Long enough to be tired of hiding," she replied. "But not long enough to stop hoping someone like you might come along." Someone like me? A sentinel who might see past the blade. I looked at her, really looked, at the woman who shared stories with children, who kept the library open late for lonely souls, who spoke in truths so old they burned. "What are you?" I whispered. "Not human. That much I know." "We call ourselves the Ellerin," she said. "Not beasts. Not shadows. Just different." "You feed on humans?" "No," her answer was immediate, fierce. "We feed on knowledge, memory, emotion. Not by force. Never by force. We share. That's what the mark means. It's a bond, not a trap." "Then why the disappearances?" Her jaw tensed. "That wasn't us. There's something else out there, Arya. Something darker. I stayed to find it. But the more I searched, the more I realized I couldn't do it alone." "And you hoped a sentinel would help you?" "No," she said. "I hoped you would." The room shrank around us. The air thickened with something electric, something unspoken. I stood too quickly, nearly knocking over the tea. "This is a manipulation." "Is it?" Her voice lowered, almost a plea. "Or is it just the first time you've seen the world without someone else's lens?" I left. I had to. Her words echoed through my skull as I walked the wet streets. But what haunted me more was her eyes, so full of things I wasn't ready to feel. That night, a scream tore through the town. I was already running when I heard it, my blade in hand, instincts taking over. In the woods behind the bakery, I found the blood first, then the body. Torn open. Savaged. This wasn't Ellerin work. I knew their signatures. This was something else. Something feral. Behind me, a twig snapped. I spun, blade raised, and came face to face with Lyra, her violet eyes wide with fear. "It's here," she said, breathless. "And it's not one of mine. I should have arrested her, restrained her, killed her. But instead, I lowered my weapon and nodded once. Show me." The forest swallowed sound. Even the wind held its breath as I followed Lyra through the dark, my blade slick with rain and blood, my pulse hammering like a warning bell in my ears. She moved with eerie precision, barefoot on the wet earth, her cloak billowing behind her like a shadow that refused to be tamed. Her eyes, still glowing faintly violet in the dark, scanned the trees with the sharpness of someone who wasn't afraid of what she might find, but of what she might already know. I should have been watching her. I should have been thinking about the order, about the mission, about the centuries of doctrine whispering in my bones that trusting her was blasphemy. Instead, all I could think about was the way her fingers had brushed mine when she handed me the tea, the way she said my name like it meant something more than duty. "We're close," she murmured. "Can you feel it?" I didn't answer, but I could. The air had shifted, thicker now, weighted with something foul and old. It wasn't like her magic, which felt like forgotten stories and warm firelight. This was rot, a pulse of wrongness that made my skin crawl. We found the trail near the base of an ancient oak, deep claw marks in the bark, blood smears on the moss. Lyra knelt, her hand hovering just above the soil, not touching it. "It feeds on fear," she whispered. "Not emotion, pure, primal fear. It stirs it up, then drinks it." I crouched beside her, trying to stay focused, but the curve of her neck, the way her breath caught in her throat, it wrecked me. "Is it one of the old kind?" I asked. "No," she said, looking up at me. "It's something twisted, something that used to be." My stomach turned. A corrupted Ellerin? Could that happen? And if so, could Lyra become that? "Why stay?" I asked. "If you knew it was here, why not run?" She met my gaze, and there was no hesitation. "Because if I run, people die. And if you kill me before I stop it, more will." I wanted to doubt her. I wanted to call her a liar. But I couldn't. I'd seen the body. I'd felt the difference. And God's help me, I believed her. We tracked the creature deeper into the woods until dawn began to bleed through the branches. It was gone by then, vanished like smoke. We were both exhausted. Lyra's shoulders drooped as we returned to the edge of town, her energy dimming. "You need rest," I said. "You look like hell." She smirked, charming as always. I should have left her at the library. I should have gone back to the Order's outpost and reported what I'd found. But when she opened the library door and turned back to me, her voice barely above a whisper, "Will you stay?" I didn't say no. We sat by the fire in the back room, the windows fogged from the rain, silence stretching between us like a string pulled taut. I was still in my armor, my weapons close, but I didn't feel like a soldier. Not here. Not with her. "You're not what I expected," I admitted. "Neither are you," she replied. "You were supposed to be ruthless. Cold. Another blade sent to cut us down. But you hesitate. Is that weakness?" No, her eyes met mine burning. "It's what makes you dangerous." I didn't know who moved first. Maybe it was me. Maybe it was the silence. But suddenly we were closer, breaths mingling, the distance between our mouths evaporating like mist in sunlight. She didn't kiss me. Not yet, but she looked at me like she would. Like she wanted to. And that was worse. "Tell me to stop," I whispered. "If you don't," she didn't. Her hand brushed my cheek, warm and trembling. "You've spent your whole life following rules written by men who never questioned their own cruelty," she said softly. "Maybe it's time to write your own." I broke. Our lips met, slow, uncertain, hungry in a way I hadn't expected. Not violent, not possessive, just real. Her hands in my hair, my fingers at her waist, everything unspoken spilling between us in waves. I'd never kissed anyone like that. I'd never wanted to. When we pulled apart, breathless and dizzy, reality slammed back into me. "This doesn't change what you are," I said, more to myself than to her. "No," she agreed, voice raw. "But maybe it changes what you are." That night, I returned to my inn and found a letter waiting for me, sealed with the insignia of the Order. I broke it open with shaking hands. "The target has been confirmed. Terminate immediately. Report upon completion. Delay will be punished." I stared at the words, cold and final. I'd kissed a target. I'd tasted her breath. I'd let her inside places no one had ever seen. And now the Order wanted her dead. The letter burned in my pocket like it knew what I'd done, as if the ink itself could smell the guilt on my skin, still warm from Lyra's touch. I didn't sleep. I didn't undress. I sat on the edge of the narrow bed, armored and silent, staring at nothing as the weight of my choices sank deeper into my chest. Terminate immediately. No hesitation. No questions. The order didn't care who Lyra was, what she had said, what I had felt. To them, she was a name on a list. Love what you've seen so far and want to help me keep creating these awesome stories on this channel? Then subscribe and hit the bell. Your subscription supports the channel and makes sure you get more exciting stories. A threat to be erased. I'd never disobeyed a direct command, but I also had never kissed someone I was meant to kill. I returned to the library at dawn. The streets were still wet from the night storm, mist clinging to the cobblestones like the last breath of a dream. My steps were quiet, measured. I told myself I was here to finish the mission, to do what I'd been trained to do. But that was a lie, and I knew at the moment she opened the door. Lyra stood barefoot in the soft gray light, hair tousled, a cup of tea in one hand. She looked at me like she'd been waiting, like she already knew. "You read it," she said.
I didn't ask how.
I did. And her voice was calm, but I heard the fracture beneath it. I stepped inside, closing the door behind me. The silence between us stretched, thick and sharp. I could kill her now. One movement, one strike. It would be clean. It would be done. But when I looked at her, I didn't see a monster. I saw the woman who had made me feel something real in a world that had never allowed softness. "I need to know the truth," I said. "All of it." She nodded slowly, setting the cup down with care. Then she walked past me, deeper into the library, to a door I hadn't seen before. She opened it without ceremony. A staircase descended into darkness. I followed. The air below was colder, filled with the scent of old paper and older secrets. The space we entered was no mere basement.
It was a sanctuary.
Shelves lined the walls, filled not with books, but scrolls and artifacts. At the center stood a table covered in maps and drawings, sigils I recognized, languages I didn't. "This is what I've been protecting," she said. "Not just myself. Our history. Our truth." She lit a candle and unrolled a scroll. I leaned in. It depicted the Ellerin not as beasts, but as guardians. Protectors of balance. A race that had once lived openly beside humans, until fear turned them into prey. "The Order destroyed our cities," she said. "Erased us from records. Rewrote the story, so they'd always be the saviors."
Why?
"Because we made them feel small," she answered. "Because we reminded them they weren't the first, or the most powerful, or the wisest." I stared at the scroll, at the elegant lines and names long forgotten. "And this thing killing people here? It was once Ellerin," she said softly. "A sister. She was consumed by grief during the last purge. She let the darkness in, became something else. I've been trying to stop her ever since." Alone, Lyra met my gaze. "Would you trust anyone?" I looked at her, at the raw truth in her face, and I realized I already had. I reached out, fingers brushing hers. "You don't have to be alone now." Her breath caught. She turned her hand, lacing her fingers with mine. "And what will your order say about that?" "They already said it." I pulled the letter from my pocket, tore it in half, then again, and let the pieces fall to the ground. "They want a weapon. I'm not theirs anymore." The moment hung between us, weightless, dangerous, inevitable. I didn't kiss her. She kissed me. Harder this time. Desperate.
Real.
My armor hit the floor. Her mouth found my neck, my shoulder, my skin, and for once, I didn't feel like a weapon. I felt alive.
But the peace didn't last.
A crash echoed from above, with splintering, glass shattering. We broke apart, hearts pounding. Lyra was already moving. "She's here," she said. "The corrupted one." The sister turned predator. I grabbed my blade, Lyra her runes. We ran. The library was in ruins, windows shattered inward, books strewn like broken wings. At the center of the chaos stood a figure, tall and wrong. Her skin was gray, stretched too tight. Her eyes burned with hunger. And when she saw Lyra, she smiled with teeth like knives. "Sister," she rasped, "still pretending to be good?" "You don't have to do this," Lyra said, stepping forward. "You're not lost." "Oh, but I am," the creature hissed. "And now I want you to be too." She lunged. I moved faster. Steel met claw. Blood met fire. The battle began. Claws scraped against steel with a sound that shook something ancient in me. The corrupted Ellerin, Lyra's sister, moved like a nightmare made flesh, too fast, too strong, too wrong. Her face was a mockery of what she once had been. Twisted features, glowing eyes filled with hatred and hunger, a mouth that stretched too wide with a smile that reeked of decay. She wanted to tear us apart. I could feel it, not just in her movements but in the air itself, thick with a presence that didn't just want to kill. It wanted to consume. She struck first. I blocked high, barely in time. The force of her blow sent me crashing through a shelf, splinters ripping into my back. Pain flashed bright behind my eyes, but I pushed up, blade in hand, breath ragged. "She's not fighting to kill you," Lyra said, standing between us, her hands glowing with sigils of protection, her voice calm despite the storm. "She wants to corrupt you." "Not happening," I growled. "I've already been corrupted by someone else." Our eyes met for the briefest moment, hers full of fear and something more. Something dangerous. Then the creature lunged again. This time I was ready. I ducked, slashed low, catching her across the thigh. Black blood hissed where it hit the floor, smoking like acid. She howled, a sound that split the air in two. "You chose her," she spat at Lyra. "A sentinel? After what they did to us." "I chose someone who thinks for herself," Lyra said, stepping forward now, voice trembling but firm. "Can you say the same?" The creature hissed, recoiling, and for a moment I saw it. The flicker of memory in her eyes. The person she used to be. But it was gone in an instant, buried beneath centuries of pain. "She's too far gone," I muttered. "Maybe," Lyra whispered. "But I'm not ready to give up." I felt it then. A strange pulse beneath my skin. Like something was trying to wake up inside me, something old, something silent and watching. My blade felt heavier, my vision sharper. I moved faster, fought harder. The creature slashed again, and this time I caught her midair, twisting and slamming her down with a strength I shouldn't have had. Lyra noticed it too. Her breath caught. "Arya, your aura." "What?" "It's not just your training. There's something in you." "That's comforting," I muttered, dodging another blow. But her words echoed inside me like a prophecy I wasn't ready to understand. I fought with everything I had, every lesson burned into me by the order, every instinct honed by a lifetime of obedience. But now, every movement was for her. For Lyra. For the truth I wasn't supposed to know. For the kiss that still lingered on my lips like defiance. Finally, with a cry that tore from my very core, I drove my blade through the creature's chest. Her scream wasn't pain, it was rage. Pure, echoing fury. She thrashed, clawed, grabbed my wrist, and burned me with a final surge of her power. I dropped, breath stolen, vision blurring. And then, silence. Lyra was at my side in a heartbeat, hands on my face, her magic already working to pull the pain away. "Stay with me," she said, voice cracking. "Don't you dare leave me now." "I'm not dying," I whispered, the corner of my mouth twitching. "You owe me answers." "You're insufferable," she murmured, pressing her forehead to mine, relief shaking through her. "And you're beautiful when you worry," I replied, only half conscious. She laughed, actually laughed, and it was the most perfect sound I'd ever heard. The creature's body lay still, black blood pooling beneath her. Whatever had corrupted her, it was gone now. Burned out. But something else remained. Lyra stood slowly, moving to the corpse, and from its chest she drew a crystal shard, dark and pulsing. Her hands trembled. "This was the seed," she said. "What infected her? This isn't just corruption. It's engineered. You mean someone did this to her? Yes, she whispered. And if someone is planting seeds like this, there are more. And they won't stop with her. I pushed myself upright, wincing. The order, they wouldn't care, she finished for me. They'd kill us all and say it was a victory. Then we don't tell them. Her eyes snapped to mine. What?
We handle it, I said.
You and me. Together. Her lips parted. That would make you a traitor. No, I said. That would make me finally free. She stepped closer, her hands cupping my face again, thumb brushing a cut beneath my eye. You'll lose everything. I already have, I whispered. And somehow, that makes room for something new. She kissed me then, softer this time. Slower. Like she wanted to remember how I tasted before the world came for us again. We stayed like that for a moment, two women in the ruins of a battle, tangled in something stronger than duty, stronger than fear, but far from safe. We burned the body. There was no ritual, no farewell, only fire and silence, the smoke curling into the dawn like a secret we couldn't afford to let live. Lyra stood beside me, her eyes locked on the flames, arms crossed tight over her chest like she could hold herself together by sheer will alone.
I didn't speak.
I knew grief when I saw it. Even corrupted, even monstrous, the creature we'd slain had once been her sister. I didn't know what it meant to lose family like that. The Order had taken mine too young for me to remember their faces. But I knew what it meant to lose belief. And I saw that same fracture in Lyra now. We'll find the ones who did this, I said at last, voice low. We'll stop them. She didn't look at me, but I saw her jaw tighten. You don't know what you're promising. Maybe not, I said. But I know what I won't do. I won't let this be the world we accept. That was when she finally turned to face me. Her eyes were rimmed with unshed tears, but they held fire behind them. Then you'd better be ready to destroy everything you thought was sacred. I didn't flinch. I already started when I kissed you. That made her laugh just once, short and sharp. But it was something. We returned to the library, both of us aching in ways that had nothing to do with blades or bruises. The place was a wreck, books ruined, shelves shattered, ash smeared across the floors. I can help clean up, I offered. Lyra raised an eyebrow. You know how to shelve 600-year-old texts by dialect? No, I said. But I'm good at taking orders. Or I was. She gave me a look I couldn't read, then motioned to the far wall. Start there. We worked in silence for a while, and there was something strangely intimate in the rhythm of it. The quiet gestures, the shared glances, the weight of everything unspoken filling the gaps between us like a second heartbeat. I kept thinking about the moment in the forest when my body moved with a strength I didn't recognize. When Lyra had said my aura was changing, I didn't want to ask, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. What did you mean? I said finally, when you said there was something in me? She paused, her fingers brushing the spine of a ruined manuscript. You've been touched by our magic. That much is obvious. The way you fought, it wasn't human. So what am I? Not one of us, she said, but connected. Some sentinels absorb fragments of energy from the beings they kill. The older the creature, the more powerful the residue. And you've killed a lot, haven't you? I nodded slowly. So, you're saying I've been, what? Infected? Not infected, she said gently. Changed. Magic doesn't always corrupt. Sometimes it just reveals. That word sat heavy in my chest. Reveals. What had I been hiding even from myself? The door creaked open around midday. I spun, hand to my blade out of instinct, but it was only a messenger boy. Young, pale, eyes wide with fear. Letter for you, he said, handing it over with shaking fingers. Came from the capital. Urgent. I tore it open. The seal wasn't from the Order. It was from Commander Elaine, my former mentor, my executioner, if she ever found out what I'd done.
Arya.
There are rumors of your delay. The council grows suspicious. You are being recalled. If you do not return within 3 days, you will be considered rogue. You know what that means. Be smart. Lyra read over my shoulder. I didn't stop her. Her fingers closed around my wrist. You can't go back. I have to, I said. If I run now, they'll know. They'll send others. They'll find you. Then let them try, she snapped. We'll fight. You don't understand, I said, stepping away. Elaine trained me. She knows everything about how I move, how I think. She'll tear this place apart. Then what? She asked, voice cracking. You just go back and pretend none of this happened? Pretend I don't exist. I'll buy us time, I said. I'll give them just enough to delay a full hunt. I can lie. I've done it before. Her eyes narrowed. And when they look in your mind? I swallowed. She was right. The Order had seers, interrogators, ways of peeling truth from thought. I'd be exposed. Unless, there's a way, Lyra said quietly, as if hearing the thought forming in my head. To shield you. It's old magic. Dangerous. Intimate. My breath caught. How intimate? She stepped closer, and this time there was no fear in her gaze. It requires trust. And, contact. Emotional. Physical. My heart thundered. So we'd be bound, she finished. Just for a time. It'll mask your connection to me, hide what we've shared. But once the bond is made, it's hard to ignore. You'll feel me, and I'll feel you. A pause. Everywhere. I stared at her. My pulse was a war drum in my throat. Do it. Her lips parted in surprise. Are you sure? I'd rather carry you with me than let them rip you from me, I said. So, if there's a price, I'll pay it. She didn't answer. She just stepped forward, reached for my hands, and began to whisper. The words weren't in any language I knew.
They were older than that.
I felt the magic wind around us, thick and warm and intimate in a way I wasn't ready for. My blood hummed. My body trembled. Her forehead touched mine. Her breath on my lips. You're inside me now, she whispered. And I'm inside you. Then the bond snapped into place like a thread pulled tight, and I felt her. Her heartbeat. Her worry. Her longing. Her desire.
Gods.
It was overwhelming. It was beautiful. It was dangerous. We pulled apart slowly, breathless. Now go, she said, voice unsteady. Before I beg you to stay. I kissed her. One last time. And then I turned, walked into the rain, and began the longest journey of my life, straight back to the people who had made me and would destroy me if they knew who I was becoming. The capital had always felt like a cathedral built for obedience, every stone laid with purpose, every corridor designed to echo footsteps like a threat. I had crossed those cold halls 100 times, my armor sharp, my posture perfect, my silence a badge of loyalty. But this time, as I walked through the towering gates of the Sentinel Citadel, something was different. I carried Lyra with me, not just in thought, in flesh, in soul. The bond hummed beneath my skin like a second heartbeat. I could feel her worry, her longing, her defiance. I felt the pull of her emotions threading through my body, like heat in my veins. I wasn't sure how much of what I was feeling was mine anymore, and I didn't care. I welcomed it. Let them try to read me. Let them try to break me. I had someone worth protecting now, and I would burn the world before I let them take her from me. Sentinel Vane. The voice was a blade. Commander Elaine stood at the top of the marble stairs, her black uniform pristine, silver hair coiled in a crown of cold authority. Her eyes, steel gray, sharp, raked over me like I was already bleeding. You're late. The mission required more time, I said evenly. The target was evasive. And yet not impossible. Correct. The threat has been neutralized. I handed her the forged report. It was perfect. I'd spent all night crafting every word with Lyra's help, truths bent just enough to fit the Order's expectations, with no mention of who or what the creature really was. Elaine said nothing for a long moment, just scanned the parchment. Her eyes didn't blink. Her fingers didn't tremble. But I could feel her suspicion. She'd trained me too well. The council wants a debriefing, she said.
Now.
Of course they did. I followed her through the citadel, my every step echoing like I didn't belong here anymore. Because I didn't. I wasn't one of them. Not really. Not anymore. The council chamber was a circle of 7 thrones, all occupied by figures draped in white and gold, sentinels who hadn't drawn blood in decades, but who ruled through doctrine and fear. I stood in the center, exposed, my pulse pounding against my ribs. "Tell us," one said. "What did you find in Halewick?" I repeated the lie.
Clean.
Efficient. I told them of a corrupted beast masquerading as a human, of signs of ancient blood magic, of a battle fought and won. Every detail was rehearsed, every sentence polished. But as I spoke, I felt something stir inside me through the bond. Lyra. She was listening.
Somehow she was with me.
I felt her breath, shallow. Her fear, like ice on my spine. Her hope, like fire in my chest. I gripped it, anchored myself to it. "You claim the threat was isolated," another counselor said. "But records suggest the signature was Ellerin in origin. That race was purged. Are you suggesting survivors?" "No," I lied. "I'm suggesting imitators.
Parasites.
Something that mimicked the old magic but lacked its discipline." Elaine narrowed her eyes. "You are unusually poetic today, Arya." "It was a poetic death," I replied, tone flat. "It earned that much." Silence. Then a slow nod. "You will be monitored," Elaine said. "There are whispers in the ranks. We can't afford softness." My jaw clenched. Understood. I was dismissed. But the cold sweat down my back told me I was far from safe. That night, in the privacy of my old quarters, I collapsed to my knees. The connection surged inside me. I reached for her. "Lyra." Her voice came like a breath against my soul. "You're alive." "Barely." They bought it for now. I could feel her relief, like warmth blooming in my chest. And then another feeling. Unfiltered.
Raw.
Desire. I gasped as it hit me, sudden and intense. She must have felt it too, because her response was immediate. "I shouldn't," she whispered. "But you do," I breathed. The bond flared. I felt her hands, on her own skin, but through me. I felt her pulse, her hunger. And mine answered it. I lay back, trembling, eyes closed, letting the connection take me. I had never known intimacy like this, not even in touch, let alone across distance. It was more than physical. It was possession. She whispered my name like a plea, and I whispered hers like a vow. We didn't need to be in the same room. Our souls were already entangled. When it ended, I lay there in the dark, breathless, shaken, whole. And I knew I would never let her go. But danger was closer than I realized. 2 days later, I was summoned again. Elaine met me in the training arena alone. She threw me a blade. "Show me," she said. "Show you what?" "That you still bleed like one of us." The fight was brutal. She knew every move I made, every pattern, every hesitation. But I was stronger now.
Faster.
I dodged, struck, danced around her with a grace I hadn't possessed before Halewick. Her eyes narrowed. "You've changed." "I've grown." "No," she said, voice cold. "You've shifted. Your energy. It's not pure." "Neither are you," I snapped. Her blade pressed against my throat. "You've been touched," she hissed. "I can feel it." My pulse thundered. "Then strike. See what happens." She didn't. She backed away, breathing hard. Her eyes were unreadable. "They'll test you soon." The seers. "If you're hiding something, Arya, if you've bonded." "I haven't." I lied. "I know." I held her gaze. I didn't flinch. She left without another word. But I knew then. The noose was tightening. The next test would expose me, unless I acted first. Unless I left before they could read me. But if I ran, I'd be hunted. Marked. Kill on sight. I reached for Lyra, through the bond. "They're coming." Her answer was immediate. "Then come home." And just like that, I knew where I belonged. I left before sunrise. No armor. No banners. Just a cloak, a stolen key, and the bond humming beneath my skin like a storm building at the edges of my soul. The city hadn't stirred yet. The sentinels were still in their barracks. The seers would rise with the second bell. I had 1 hour, maybe less, before the full weight of the order came crashing down on my name. I moved like a shadow. Every step rehearsed, every turn burned into muscle memory from years of patrolling these very halls.
I knew where the guards would be,
Where the blind spots were, where silence was strongest. But what I didn't count on was her. Going somewhere, Vane? The voice hit me like ice to the spine. Commander Elaine stepped out from the shadows, arms crossed, blade sheathed but close. She wore no formal uniform, just her training leathers, practical, fast, ready for blood. I didn't slow. Move. You're not even going to lie? I'm tired of lying. Her eyes narrowed. And what will you do, Arya? Run to her? To a thing that's twisted your heart. She didn't twist anything, I said, voice hard. She opened my eyes. She bound you. No, I said, stepping close, pulse pounding. I chose her. For a second, she didn't speak. Then she smiled, sharp and bitter. You could have been everything. The youngest to reach commander. The future of the order. I was everything, I said. Until I realized what it cost me. She reached for her blade. I reached for mine. But before the steel could sing, a bolt of red light exploded between us. Elaine staggered back, swearing, and I turned toward the source. Took you long enough, said a voice from the archway. I blinked. Riven. The scout stood there, grinning like the chaos was just a game. Her dark braids were tied back, her knives gleaming, her eyes filled with that same recklessness that had gotten her suspended more times than I could count. You're not the only one who started asking questions, she said. And let's just say your death report didn't smell right. Why help me? I asked. Because I watched you bleed for this order, she said. And I always wondered what would happen if someone finally made you bleed for yourself. We ran. Elaine shouted behind us, rallying guards, but Riven had planned the route. We slipped through the outer gates with breathless precision and vanished into the streets before the alarm bells rang. The escape wasn't clean. It never is. We fought twice, once in the marketplace, where I had to knock out a former sparring partner who recognized me, and again at the southern checkpoint, where Riven nearly got her throat slit before I dragged her behind a cart of hay and took down the patrol myself. But we made it. By dusk, the city was behind us, the walls a memory, and my name already cursed in stone. We split ways in the woods. Riven had her own path, her own reasons. Where will you go? I asked. Wherever they hate the order more than me, she said with a wink. You'll know where to find me if it comes to war. It's already war, I said. She nodded, then disappeared into the trees. I ran until my lungs burned, until the path turned familiar, until the woods opened into the clearing where the library stood like a promise that hadn't been broken yet. She was there, standing outside, waiting. The moment our eyes met, I knew. She'd felt everything. The escape, the danger, the choices. I crossed the distance in seconds. Dropped my weapons, dropped my fear, and then I was in her arms, her hands in my hair, her mouth on mine. The kiss wasn't soft. It was fire and teeth and desperation, months of longing poured into a single, breathless collision. She pulled me inside, tore the cloak from my shoulders, pushed me back against the door. You came back, she whispered against my throat. I told you I would. I felt you, she said. Bleeding, fighting, breaking. But not breaking apart, I said. Not from you. She kissed me again, slower this time, her fingers trailing down my chest, unfastening the last of my armor. Do you know what it did to me, feeling you like that? Knowing I couldn't reach you. Then reach me now. I breathed. And she did. That night was different from before. Not just hunger. Not just escape. It was claiming. I felt her everywhere in my skin, my breath, my soul. Our bond deepened with every touch, every whispered vow, every cry that left my throat and was swallowed by her lips. We didn't just make love. We merged. And when we lay there after, skin to skin, heart to heart, she rested her head on my chest and whispered, "They'll never stop hunting you." "Let them try," I said. "They don't know what I've become." She sat up slowly, reaching for something at her side. A map, inked by hand, dotted with unfamiliar glyphs. "I've been tracing the corruption. The seeds." She pointed to a mountain range far east. "There's a concentration here.
Strong. Old.
If someone's creating them, they're hiding there." I nodded, eyes tracing the route. "Then that's where we go." "Are you sure?" "I didn't turn my back on the order to hide," I said. "I turned my back to fight the real enemy." She smiled, a soft, aching thing. "You're not the woman I met in this library." "No," I said, brushing her hair from her face. "She died in Halewick." Her eyes locked with mine. "Then who are you now?" I kissed her again. "Yours." The mountains loomed ahead like ancient gods sleeping beneath the sky. Sharp, vast, eternal. For 3 days, we traveled by moonlight, avoiding roads, crossing rivers swollen with autumn melt, following the path marked on Lyra's map, sigils etched in fading ink, invisible to human eyes but glowing faintly beneath her touch. Each step deeper into that range felt like walking out of the world I knew and into something older, quieter, more dangerous. And the deeper we went, the more I felt it. The bond between us had changed.
Grown.
It wasn't just whispers in my chest anymore, it was presence. I could feel her breath even when we weren't touching. Her thoughts brushed mine in the quiet. Her fear trembled in my fingertips. Her desire never truly left. We stopped on the 4th night beneath a granite overhang, far above the tree line. A fire crackled between us. I watched her hands as she drew a rune in the dirt, something protective. Her sleeves were rolled up, revealing the faint shimmer of her markings. I'd memorized those hands. I wanted them on me again, not out of hunger, but out of need. She must have felt the shift, because her eyes lifted to meet mine. "You've been quiet, so have you." "The air up here," she hesitated. "It carries memory. You feel it too, don't you?" I nodded. "It's like the mountain remembers things." "It does." She reached across the fire, her fingers brushing mine. "We're close." "To what?" Her voice lowered. "To answers. To truth." And maybe she didn't finish. She didn't have to. We both knew something was coming. Something irreversible. The next morning, we found it. A city carved into the stone. No doors, no gates, only runes etched in impossible spirals across the rock face. Lyra whispered in the old tongue. The mountains listened. The wall rippled and then opened. What waited inside wasn't ruins.
It was a sanctuary.
Lush, green, alive. Like a hidden oasis untouched by war. The creatures moved between the trees, some humanoid, others not. All watched us. None spoke. Until one stepped forward. She was tall, ageless, with skin the color of carved obsidian and eyes of liquid gold. Her voice rang like a bell. Lyra of the Ellerin. And the sentinel who chose exile. I stiffened. Lyra stepped forward. "We seek the source of the corruption. We believe it's rooted here." The woman's gaze slid to me. "And what do you believe, Arya Vane?" I opened my mouth, but the bond pulsed. I felt Lyra's unease. Her doubt. Her fear that I would be rejected here. I closed my mouth. And then I spoke not from doctrine, but from the woman I had become. "I believe what we fight is not just magic gone wrong. It's a weapon. Someone's using it. To divide.
To control.
To turn the world against itself." The woman studied me. Then she smiled. "You feel it, don't you? The song beneath your blood." "What are you talking about?" "Come." We followed her deeper into the sanctuary, past fountains that shimmered with memory, through gardens that bloomed with forgotten names, and then into a hall where light danced without source. She showed us a mural, older than any Sentinel archive. It depicted humans, Ellerin, and something between. Warriors cloaked in fire. eyes glowing violet and gold. In the earliest days, she said, there were some born between the worlds. Not entirely human, not entirely Ellerin. They were bridges, living balance. Hybrids? I asked, stomach turning. No, she said. Chosen. Born when the world needed them. And when they became too powerful, the orders, yours included, wiped them out. My blood went cold. What does this have to do with me? She turned to Lyra. Has she not told you? Lyra's face was pale. Her voice was quiet. I wasn't sure. Tell me what? Your mother, Lyra said. She wasn't fully human, Arya. She was one of us. The world spun. That's not possible. The Order found me in the orphan camps. They said, they lied. The woman interrupted. They've always lied. I backed away, my breath shallow. So, what does that make me? A bridge, she said. One with power enough to unmake what they've built. Lyra reached for me. I stepped back. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't know, she said. Not until Halewick. When I felt your magic spark. When I saw the way the forest answered you. My hands trembled. The room felt too small. Too full. I was Ellerin. At least part. All this time, I'd been killing what I was. All this time, I'd been cutting down blood relatives. Get me out of here, I whispered. Lyra took my hand without question. She led me back into the trees, far from the eyes of the sanctuary. We stopped beneath an ancient tree, and I collapsed to my knees. I don't know who I am anymore. You're mine, she said, kneeling with me. And I don't care what blood runs through your veins. You are not the Order. You are not the blade they made. You are Arya. The woman who saved me, who loved me, who chose me. I'm scared. So am I. Her forehead touched mine. But we're stronger now. And we're not alone. The bond flared. And in that moment I felt it. The mountain. The trees. The old magic. It welcomed me. Not as a thief. Not as a soldier. But as one of its own. The mountain called to me. Not with words, but with memory. Every breath I took echoed with forgotten truths. Every stone beneath my feet pulsed like a heartbeat. My heartbeat. I wasn't just passing through this place. I belonged to it. Or it to me. Lyra walked beside me, silent. She hadn't let go of my hand since the truth was spoken. She didn't flinch when I trembled. Didn't look away when my skin shimmered faintly with the same violet glow I'd seen in her. She saw all of me now, the soldier, the traitor, the half-blood, and she still held on. That alone made me feel unbreakable. The council of the sanctuary gathered at dusk. 7 elders, cloaked in living light, sat beneath the tree of origins. It wasn't symbolic. The tree pulsed with actual power, roots that touched the bones of the world. The corruption began here, one said. Decades ago. It spread through the veins of our forgotten kind, and someone guided it. We know who, Lyra said. The Order. No, I said, stepping forward. Not the Order alone. It's deeper than them. I opened the crystal Lyra had taken from her sister's body. It pulsed faintly, the darkness inside swirling like smoke. This was engineered. The Order may have used it, but they didn't create it. Then who did? Someone asked. And the answer fell from my lips before I could stop it. The Obsidian Circle. A name I hadn't spoken aloud in years. A name I wasn't supposed to know. Elaine had whispered it once during a late-night meeting I wasn't meant to hear. What is that? Lyra asked. A secret faction within the Order, I said. Unseen. Unnamed. They don't just hunt the old kind. They experiment. They want control. They want to eliminate balance itself. Because balance requires compassion, one elder said. And compassion requires chaos. Exactly, I said. And if they realize I'm still alive, still bonded to you, they'll come. Not to question. Not to contain. But to erase. Then let them come, Lyra said, stepping beside me. We won't hide anymore. The sanctuary braced. The elders summoned protective wards. Lyra and I trained for days, honing not just our magic, but our unity. The bond had become something stronger than either of us expected. When I closed my eyes, I could feel her in my pulse, in my thoughts, in my will, and I knew she felt me too. The attack came at dawn. Not a siege, an infiltration. Precise.
Silent. Deadly.
The Obsidian Circle didn't send soldiers. They sent ghosts. Former sentinels. Corrupted hybrids. One of them was Riven. My heart shattered. Her eyes glowed black.
Her voice was gone.
She wasn't my friend anymore. She was theirs. I fought like fire. Like fury. Lyra moved beside me like wind made flesh. We were unstoppable until they reached the tree. One of the circle's leaders stepped into the clearing, hooded, masked, wielding dark magic twisted into blades. "You are the abomination," he said to me. "A bridge that should have burned." "Then come burn me yourself," I spat. We clashed. Blade to blade. Magic to magic. He struck hard, but I struck with truth. Every scream I'd silenced. Every rule I'd swallowed. Every drop of blood spilled in the name of a cause I no longer served. I let it out. The mountain answered. Light erupted from my chest. My blade shattered, replaced by something born of will and legacy. I became the balance. And when I struck the masked leader down, the earth itself cracked beneath us. The corruption screamed. Then silence. The survivors fled. The corrupted fell. And in the center of the chaos, I collapsed into Lyra's arms.
We didn't speak.
We didn't need to. We'd won. But not because we fought harder. Because we felt more. Days passed. The sanctuary was rebuilt. The elders offered us places among them. Guardians of the new era. But Lyra and I had other plans. We left the mountains hand in hand, choosing the path not of power, but of purpose. Together, we crossed the world, hunting the last seeds of the Obsidian Circle, healing what they broke, and protecting those who'd been forgotten. We didn't hide. We didn't run.
We lived. Loved.
And when the nights were quiet and the stars were clear, I would lie beside her, fingers tracing the mark on her back, the mark that matched mine now, the sign of the bond, the sign of us. She would ask, soft and sleepy, "Do you ever regret it?" And I would answer, every time, never. Because I had been chosen to destroy her kind, and instead, she showed me what it meant to be human. Thank you so much for being here and for believing in this channel. If you feel in your heart, you can donate with super thanks so I can focus more and more on this project. Your support helps me keep creating these love stories and bringing them to life for you. See you in the next video.